Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of November 17th, 2024. The 2025 Predictions Workshop that I did with two of my astro besties, Sarah L. Harar and Tiffany Harelik, was out of this world. It was so good. We have done this 3 years in a row, and I swear they have outdone each other. I feel so honored to be part of it, and Sarah went deeply on each of the outer planet transits that are changing signs and talked about historically some of the things that have come up previously. It was a masterclass on astrology and looking at it through a historical lens, as well as predictions of what is going to be coming up. I focused on the retrogrades, and Tiffany did a phenomenal job of outlining what we can be expecting with the upcoming eclipses now that the nodes will have changed signs, so the work is different. So I highly encourage you, if you have any interest, to buy the recording. It was almost 3 hours. It has a lot of predictions as well as cities to be aware of, and it was just spectacular. I will certainly watch it again myself. I'll also put a link in the show notes for an Instagram post about some of the predictions that we come up with last year that showed up this year and in what form they showed up in. So definitely check it out. There's a link in the show notes if you're interested. Next Sunday will be the Sagittarius New Moon Workshop. And as always, these new moon workshops are great to prepare for the upcoming lunation and include guidance about intention setting. And I do hot takes on people's charts, as many as I can. And for this next one, both Mercury and Mars are going to be going retrograde. So we will talk about what may be showing up for us on an individual level as well as a collective level in the workshop. So there's a link in the show notes. You can also go to my website, astrologybyceleste.com, and get the recording for the 2025 predictions or sign up for the New Moon Workshop. First, let's take a look back. I'm recording this on November 12th. So before the full moon, I don't know what happened at the intense full moon. But one of the things I said last week when I was talking about Mercury and Sagittarius square Saturn in Pisces, Mercury communicates and Saturn rejects and excludes. And I talked about how people were going to be canceling Thanksgiving plans. And Jesse, I believe his last name is Waters, he's a guy on Fox News, and he's had his mother on his program before, and she was very disappointed in him on his latest, very offensive thing he was saying, and she doesn't like the way he conducts himself, but as part of his job. Anyway, he talked on a segment about how he has been uninvited from Thanksgiving and that his family is going to be taking space from each other. He was allowed to come over on Black Friday, but he decided he's going to go to Best Buy instead. So that's an example in the collective of what is happening across the nation as part of the results of this election. Things started going from bad to really worse almost immediately. I talked about at the new moon in Scorpio Mercury was in Scorpio, trine Mars in Cancer. Mercury takes on the nature of what it is what is talking to. It was also sextile Pluto in Capricorn. So Mars and Pluto, its higher octave, are both energies that can be attacking. And it was either the next day or the day after the election where Donald Trump was declared the winner that Black people across the country, kids as young as school kids, there was a girl who was 12 years old, a lot of university students, as well as working professionals, received texts on their phones which called them by name and said that they would be picked up the next day and they would need to report to the nearest plantation to pick cotton because they are going to be slaves. And this occurred across the country. The FBI and local agencies are trying to track down who was the originator for this text campaign, this text hate campaign, but it's in line with the energy. Also, there's been reports about boys in schools, my understanding mostly like high schools, telling women, your body, my choice sort of thing, as well as it's been amplified by some of these right-wing social media influencers. And Mars has now moved into Leo, and I saw on Instagram a woman who shaved her head. So as a statement of fighting the patriarchy. So Leo is associated with the mane. Leo is looks like a lion, and a lion has a mane. And people with strong Leo signatures, especially Leo risings, often have really beautiful hair. And Mars severs and separates, and so she shaved her head. So that was another way we saw the astrology show up. I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that. In fact, it's one of my predictions for the upcoming Venus retrograde. We're going to see fashion statements about women using fashion as well as their physical beauty in order to make statements about their still having their own ability to assert their own selves, even though, the United States has chosen its new leader. The theme of the week is the pickup artist, and there are three big things I want you to think about as we navigate this week. The first is that Pluto has entered the sign of Aquarius until 2044. Now, it first entered Aquarius in March of 2023, but went back into Capricorn a couple of times to finish up some work before it moves into Aquarius permanently for the next 20 years. You can go back to episode 36 to dive deeper into what I talked about we may be seeing when Pluto moved into Aquarius, but now here we are, we've gotten a taste only to the first degree, so the energy is still very new, but let's talk about what the planet does and what the sign does. They're both extreme is a word that you can use for both of them. Now, Pluto is the transformer. It eliminates, it unearths, it has a volcanic force. Pluto rules volcanoes. I love this quote. I wish I knew who said it first, that it has the effect of a tsunami, but moves at the speed of a glacier. The Lord of the underworld. It takes 248 years to orbit the sun, and it spends about 11 to 30 years in a sign. So it was in Capricorn from 2008 up until November 19th, when it moves out of Capricorn for the last time for 248 years. It's a planet of intensity, power, obsession, rebirth, transformation, and transformations that are non-negotiable. It rules wealth that comes out of the earth. Its positives are it's cleansing, it's healing, it's regenerative. People who have strong Pluto energy, I've heard stories about, had very serious illnesses, even cancer, but through the force of their will and their energetic forces could heal themselves from, situations. Pluto turns excrement into fertilizer. So it brings up the ugly, ugliest things in order to expose them, in order for them to be dealt with. Pluto burns things down to the studs in order to be rebuilt. The negative, it's very cruel, brutal, sadistic, destructive. Nuclear energy is plutonic. It's the destroyer. And Aquarius is fixed air. It rules things like technology and science, the internet. You can think about how, Saturn is the traditional ruler and Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. It's very future focused. And Capricorn and Aquarius are very different because Capricorn is a hierarchical structure and Aquarius is more flattened down, where on the positives, it can be about people being treated the same no matter what. Some of the negatives are it can be just the rebel without a cause, someone who is extremely perverse. That is very Aquarian as well. But on the other side, it can be someone who's humanitarian. We can think about anything that flies as an Aquarius topic, like birds or drones, astronauts. They go into outer space, which is ruled by Uranus. It rules groups, clubs, friends, and things like Congress or other legislative branches of government. The society as a whole, the collective. And right around the time Pluto went into Aquarius, ChatGPT was the big news headline. And this technology essentially gathers all the information there ever was. Information is very air Aquarian. Can, write your dissertation for you. Also, we've had the hottest days on Earth, which is changing how people and places people can survive. So that's causing massive transformations. We're seeing massive forest fires, flooding, all of these weather events have corresponded with Pluto's first entry into Aquarius. So pay attention to what stories you're reading in the news and what you're hearing from people on November 19th. That's Tuesday when Pluto moves into Aquarius. For the U.S., we know that the Trump administration has plans for massive deportations, as well as rounding people up and putting them into camps, people who have entered the U.S. illegally. So we're going to be seeing that in the U.S. as part of the story. Your cosmic advantage begins with the Wise Skies digital calendar. With descriptions for every planetary and lunar event, all levels of astrology enthusiasts can enjoy the calendar on any device and now in many languages. With this superpower in your back pocket, you will be fully equipped to understand the astrological weather any day of the week. My good friend and collaborator, Tiffany Harelik, creates this calendar every year and I use it daily. I highly recommend it. Use my coupon code for $10 off. The code is ABC2024 or ABC2025, depending on the year. Let the universe have your back with the Wise Skies digital astrology calendar. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that Sagittarius season is November 21st through December 21st. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. Fire signs are yang energy, which push the energy out. The high road, this energy is joyful and inspired. Sagittariuses can make great storytellers that capture your attention and keep you enthralled while they spin this web of a story. A lot of pop stars and athletes have strong Sagittarian energy. You can think about the glyph is the horse. There's a lot of movement. So amazing dancers like Britney Spears is a Sagittarius. A lot of football players are Sagittarius, with that fancy footwork, that movement. It rules the hips, the thighs, the liver, and the gallbladder. Now, low road Sagittarius can be excessively loud, preachy, lacking in tact, or outright rude, just saying things that it thinks are the truth, regardless, how it will be taken by other people. And Jupiter rules this sign. And Jupiter is currently as far away from home as it can be in the opposite sign of detriment. And a planet in detriment can act in extreme and ineffectual ways. Jupiter is reporting into Mercury because Mercury rules the sign of Gemini, and Mercury's now in Sagittarius. So these two planets are in each other's signs. That is called mutual reception, which can be nice, but they're in each other's signs of detriment. And Jen Zart, a brilliant astrologer, put it very well. I think she was quoting someone else who said that two planets in each other's detriment, especially this matchup, is like two drunks helping each other home from a bar. Because mutual reception is usually good because you can lift each other up, but you're lifting each other up kind of from the gutter. Anyway, this is a long roundabout way of saying that people can get on their hind horses about their own personal belief systems and start seeing their opinions as fact and get very loud and argumentative. I wrote down, get out of my house. This is going to be the energy that we're having around Thanksgiving and, beginning of holiday season, where people, because of belief systems, are going to be, having a lot of disagreements, especially once Mercury goes retrograde, which I'll talk about next week. I should say, some things you can think about with Sagittarius energy. Sagittarius is really expansive and interested in things outside of itself. People with strong Sagittarius energy are often very interested in travel and travel to different cultures and really fascinated by the differences and can see all the value in how different people and how they think are fascinating and can aid to the collective energies. Sagittarius is what's called quincunx, the signs of Cancer, which it is a cardinal water sign, and Taurus, which is fixed earth. Quincunxes are it's in your blind spot. You can't see it. It's hard to understand. And you could think of, Cancer. Cancer is the sign of home, family, and foundations. Cancer is very insular, whereas Sagittarius is very open and expansive. People with strong Cancer can be that get off of my lawn energy on a shadow side. When you think about countries and homelands, they're Cancerian. And Taurus is a sign of stability and wanting things the same. I'm a Taurus sun. I eat the same breakfast every day. For a Sagittarius, that with that mutable energy versus the fixed energy, that would be so boring. It's how can you eat that same breakfast every day? So that's something you can think about, comparing the Sagittarius energy to two signs, which is very different from when a sign's quincunx another sign. They have nothing in common by element, and the elements are fire, air, earth, and water, or modality, cardinal, fixed, or mutable. Cardinal's initiating, fixed holds the energy. Mutable wants to adjust and change things. I love the sign of Sagittarius. This energy is exuberant, but just keep in mind there's really easy entry into clashes if that's the way one wants to go, especially after Mercury goes retrograde, which I'll talk about next week. Sagittarius energy can also be very inclusive. welcoming someone who's not your actual relative into your family for Thanksgiving dinner. Like the pickup artist comes from there. Like you pick up another person, make another plate at the dinner table. And there was a story, beautiful story about 10 years ago where this young man had accidentally texted this woman, and they became friends, and she invited him over to Thanksgiving dinner or some Christmas dinner or something like that. And he was Black and quite young, like 20 years old, and she was like in her 60s and a white lady. And it was just a beautiful story about people from different cultures connecting from this accidental text, which is so Mercury retrograde. And yeah, maybe there'll be some feel-good story like that. Nice things come out of all of the conflict with someone finding a new family when they're no longer aligned with their old one. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that we're going to have a last quarter moon on Friday at 1 degree of Virgo. This mutable earth sign is one of chopping wood and carrying water, doing the mundane tasks that help us bring organization to our lives. It helps our lives run smoother, like cleaning up the kitchen, putting away the dishes, organizing your closet. If you take vitamins, putting them into this little like pill boxes that have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on them. So you put all your vitamins in the different parts of those containers so that it's easier to just grab them and take them rather than open every bottle individually every single day. That's Virgo energy. It rules service workers. So there possibly will be news about all of the changes that are coming to the government and its different agencies during this last week of the moon cycle. The moon is going to be parallel the asteroid Hygeia, which has to do with health. So notice that there's news about who will be the Surgeon General or other health news. The moon phase family, this 27-month cycle where you can go back and look at the dates and see if there is a common theme, especially if your chart is activated by having a planet or a point near these Virgo degrees. So the new moon, where the sun and the moon were both at 4 degrees of Virgo, was on August 27th, 2022. The first quarter moon of this cycle, 9 months later, where the sun was in Gemini, the moon in Virgo, both at 6 degrees, was on May 27th, 2023. The full moon of this cycle, where the sun was in Pisces, the moon in Virgo, both at 5 degrees, was on February 24th of this year, 2024. And on Friday, we have the last quarter moon. The sun in Sagittarius, the moon in Virgo, both at 1 degree. This is November 22nd, 2024. So what was seated at the new moon that had a course correction at the first quarter was illuminated at the full moon? And now, what lessons have you learned? And are you ready is it almost to completion to start something else anew? So the Sagittarius sun, the sun at 1 Sagittarius, the tarot card correspondence is the 8 of Wands. This is a card, fast movement, fast changes, air travel. It looks like all the wands are like flying fast, going in one direction. The Sabian symbol for this degree is the ocean covered with white caps. So it gives thoughts of blustery days, can be overblown reactions or quick storms comes to mind. The moon at 1 Virgo, the tarot card is the 8 of Pentacles, which is a card of mastery, skill development, repetitive tasks. That card reminds me that, it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert. The Sabian symbol is a large white cross dominating the landscape, stands alone on top of a high hill. So this gives thoughts of religious ideals dominating. It makes me also think, come down off the cross if someone is acting like they're such a victim or something like that. You can think of, notice if you see churches by the ocean, that brings together both of these. Degree with talking about the medical aspect is someone who is a religious figure made head of a department that's associated with health. This energy invites us to get organized. Think about our health. When you go to the store, maybe if you're going to the store to start gathering ingredients for Thanksgiving dinner, because it will be under this last quarter phase, you may be thinking, "Ooh, I want that fattening cake." Sun in Sagittarius. Sagittarius can overindulge, but squaring the moon in Virgo, you're thinking, "Ooh, my cholesterol has been high. Why don't we have fruit for dessert?" That could be some of the things that people are going on intellectually at this last quarter moon. Oh, or my spouse has a problem with his blood pressure. I shouldn't put all this sausage in the stuffing. Let's just put mushrooms in the stuffing or something like that. Could be some of the things that people could be thinking about. Virgo energy also on the shadow could be perfectionistic and overly critical. So think about that as well. It's going to be on like Donkey Kong at some households during Thanksgiving. Thankfully, mine will be one of them where there's going to be all this conflict and people saying things to each other. Oh my goodness, this energy is really kind of loud.
If you are embarking on a new journey, experiencing a major life event, feeling stuck, trying to make a difficult decision, or just looking to make positive changes, astrology can provide life-changing insights. There are several ways to work with me. You can come for a 60 or 90-minute astrology consultation depending on your needs. Engage in longer-term cosmic success coaching where we work together on a 3-month basis to help you overcome blocks, improve your life satisfaction, build better relationships, accomplish your career goals, and understand yourself better using the tool of astrology. Or mystic mentoring if you're an aspiring astrologer and want help with chart analysis techniques. Go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out my offerings. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com.
On Sunday, the word of the day is triggered. The moon meets Jupiter. They're both at 19 degrees of Gemini. And Jupiter is a benefic, but it can just make everything bigger. And in Gemini, you can think about this as an mutable air energy. And emotionally, people can be very communicative. And someone says something and someone else has a bigger reaction than normal, because Mars in Leo is semi-square Jupiter. So there's this like kind of tension. Mars can poke, and somebody could be triggered with something someone else says. I just recommend with the moon in Gemini. Gemini rules the lungs. Take a deep breath before reacting. And this is one of the weeks where I started getting all these songs. So on Monday, the word of the day is stalker. And I wrote down Thriller, the Michael Jackson song, and Tales from the Crypt, because Vincent Price did the talking about at the beginning of that song. That music video was so epic when it came out. On this day, the moon will move into the sign of Cancer at 12:49 a.m. Pacific time. The moon is at home in this sign. This is a great time to just do a body scan, see how you're feeling emotionally. Maybe drink some extra water, take a bath can be some things that you think about doing. And on this day, which I'm really fascinated by, is that Mercury in Sagittarius is going to be opposite Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. They're both at 19 degrees in the sign of each other's homes. So mutually receptive by detriment, but oppositions are so far apart from each other. I wrote down Andrew Tate. This gave me the pickup artist energy, but I just wrote this down. I got this image of these two planets in opposition, but able to mutually aid each other, like two guys at a bar, like they're seeing someone, seeing some woman, one really likes her and the other is going to like bump into the woman so that she bumps into the other guy, giving Mercury and like Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter can be somebody who's kind of like bigger or a little heftier. And he bumps into the woman, she bumps into the Mercury and Sagittarius guy, and he says something really charming. Sagittarius can be great storytellers, and he says something really witty and something, and now they're chatting. And then they make a date, and this is the love story that is told at the wedding 9 months later, maybe. The sun in Scorpio is trine Neptune retrograde in Pisces, both at 27 degrees. Neptune's a higher octave than Venus. This can be like, ooh, they're in love. They meet cute, they're in love. And on this day, there's a disseminating moon at 12 degrees of Cancer. So that kind of came to me with this. And I actually had written down Andrew Tate, who's actually kind of this gross bro type, decided to make it a happy story with the sun trine Neptune. On Tuesday, the word of the day is FURIOSA. And the song Fast Cars by Tracy Chapman was playing in my head. But I also wrote down Mel Gibson, because this gave me when he got arrested for his DUI and he was pretty rude. That's very Mercury opposite Jupiter. And Mercury in Sagittarius on this day is trine Chiron in Aries, both at 19 degrees. So this can be saying something fiery where it's really not in your best interest. Chiron is the wounded healer. Aries has to do with I am. So Mercury and Sagittarius saying something that's really not in your best interest out of kind of anger, and you could be maybe somebody's a little bit furious. This is the day Pluto enters Aquarius. So pay attention to the news. Drag racing. Notice if you see anything about drag racing. This is a day Venus and Capricorn sesqui-squares Uranus and Taurus. This could be someone gets a proposal for marriage and they say yes only because of the resources. They marry for money. That could be Venus in Capricorn. Or they get a proposal by someone who they know they're going to have to be the main breadwinner, or someone much older than them. May-September relationship comes to me. On Wednesday, the word of the day is luxury. The song Fancy by Iggy Azalea is playing in my head. So, that ring is so fancy. They may be saying yes. And this is the day the Leo moon starts at 5:50 a.m. Pacific time. I love a Leo moon. This fire energy is joyful and it can seek luxury, and it rules things like celebrities and things like that. Now, there could be a little bit of irritation on this day. The moon and Mars meet at 4 Leo. That's actually on moon of Israel. There may be some news about Israel on this day, but moon Mars could be, you eat in Leo, a spicy hot pepper, and it upsets your stomach. The moon rules the stomach. Mars is like spicy things. On Thursday, the word of the day is supersonic. There's a song by Salt and Pepper. So that was the song was playing in my head, and that's the word of the day. Notice if you hear news about some kind of transportation vehicle, Mercury in Sagittarius, that goes really fast and travels a long distance. That could be Mercury in Sagittarius opposite Jupiter in Gemini. So notice if you see anything about that this week. And it's interesting because Mercury and Jupiter are going to have 3 oppositions. So this story could have 3 acts. because Mercury's direct on Monday, then it's going to go retrograde back into Jupiter, and then it's going to go direct again. So there's going to be 3 oppositions coming up over the next month. So if there's a story that starts on Monday, it may not be over, even if you think you made a deal. The sun enters Sagittarius at 11:56 a.m. Pacific time, and the season begins. So really notice what you see and read and hear about Sagittarius. Things are Sagittarius themes. So long distance travel, universities and colleges, the hips and the thighs, the liver and the gallbladder, religious figures. Is there news about the Pope or any kind of other religious leader like that? On this day, the sun in Sagittarius sextiles Pluto in Aquarius. They're both at 0 degrees. So when the planets are at 0 degrees, there's always something brought into our consciousness. There could be some story about a religious organization and power dynamics that impacts a lot of people, or a leader or a celebrity who's a Sagittarius who's exposed to maybe abused people, a lot of people, Pluto in Aquarius. On Friday, the word of the day is stop. I got the song Stop in the Name of Love by the Supremes. On this day, Venus in Capricorn is sextile Saturn and Pisces, both 12 degrees. Venus sextile Saturn, what are you willing to commit to? You know, Saturn has boundaries. Venus, love. If you loved me, you would clean up the kitchen. If you loved me, you would stop working and let's go out to dinner is coming to mind. The Virgo moon begins at 3 p.m. Pacific time. It's a great time to think about being of service. And then we have the last quarter moon at 5:27 p.m. The last quarter moon is the crisis of consciousness. It can be a time where we psychologically integrate what's come before. So over this next week, people are really going to be coming to terms with things that maybe started at the beginning of this, at the Scorpio new moon, like the election, or Jason Kelsey's dealing with the fact, oh my God, I slapped that phone out of that guy's hand. Now I have to deal with legal consequences. I got to pay this lawyer to take care of this situation. Some like that. Mars in Leo on this day is trying the North Node in Aries. Aries and Leo are both fire signs, and Mars is a malefic that takes away from life. There's been all kinds of fires on the East Coast in New York and New Jersey. Hopefully they're out now. This could be fire breaking out in some other place. Mars transits come in early, so maybe a couple of days ago, some kind of fire broke out somewhere. It's now cold enough. Maybe this is the first day you light your fireplace. On Saturday, the word of the day is SNOOP, and the song I get is The Next Episode by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. La-da-da-da-dee. The moon is opposed Saturn on this day. The moon in Virgo opposite Saturn in Pisces. I get the feeling like some people are glum, like thinking about all of the shopping they have to do for Thanksgiving. Am I going to be able to get everything done? Ooh, I have to stand in line at the grocery store. These errands are getting on my nerves is something that came to me. But the next episode, we'll see. Notice if you see something that feels like a cliffhanger. Are you snooping in somebody's DMs? Or there are text messages? You can think about things like that. Notice what comes up to you on that day about the snoop. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you. So take care, and I will catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.